started.
Okay, and then Q&A mode. No, I think I just leave it as is so you all can participate, I believe. So hi, everybody. This is Trisha Schmalhofer, and I am with the Blue Star Ministry, and this is Blue Star Connections. And on the agenda was Jonathan Fusco and I together to do I Am Infinity. It's my badass mug. And he is traveling, so he may pop in on the phone if he can, but I said, well, I can do this. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. I used to podcast back in 2019 and 2020, and in a studio, and then for a while the studio shut down COVID, and so I did it out of my house for a while and had guests on. I was in a book with other people, one of these compositions, like we each do a chapter, and so I had a lot of them on my podcast, and I have a YouTube channel. I haven't done it in a while. Kind of got tired of it and then stopped, and then opened up a center, but that was BAM, Badasses Alchemist Mystics is the name of the podcast, and then it became my community center, or BAM community, and I would do Facebook Live card readings during COVID twice a week, and then it went down to once a week once things started, opening up, because I really felt that people needed connection. I don't know about where everyone else was, but in Florida, we, during the lockdown months, I think that they closed the beaches for like 2 weeks in March of 2020, and then that started opening up pretty quickly. It's like Floridians are like, heck no, you're not going to keep me from the beach, the sunshine, the salt air, the sand, vitamin D, fresh, being outside, like that's the best medicine. And so Florida, even though there were pockets that there were some limitations, it was pretty open-ish, The center that I opened in the middle of all of that, and I thought I was going cuckoo, but that's what my inner voice said. It ended up being a nice little haven for people. And then I also did the card readings. So I just got so much positive feedback from people and thanking me for being available when a lot of people in the spiritual community kind of bailed. I was on the board at a spiritualist chapel at the time, and that there was a lot of conflict over how things should move forward, and we, in my opinion, we weren't being there for our congregation. So for the first time in my life, I resigned from something. Like, I usually don't do that. I stick it out and see things through, but it was during that time it became one of the most toxic things I was in, relationships that I was having. Everything else was positive. There were a few practitioners that came into BAM at that time, and that's when I met Yolanda Timms and Christopher Timms, was during that time. I had yet met Yolanda before Christopher, and Yolanda, we participated in a mystic fair or a psychic fair, and I was doing readings at the time, probably Akashic Records readings, and she brought the sound table, and she was right next to me outside at this event, and Christopher brought the table and set her up, and that's when I met him, and we worked side by side during that. that fair, and it was very successful. And Yolanda and I just kept touch, and then I started doing events here at BAM Community, and I invited Christopher and Yolanda to have a station. It was a similar thing, like a little fair, but it's a little more intimate here for those of you that have been here. So each room had 2 or 3 little stations, and I also at the time had little workshops. So Christopher taught a workshop on crystals, and I had another person, Fred Goodnight, whose art's all up at BAM. He taught drumming, and we had like yoga and an creative art. So we were jamming during the pandemic here. We were jamming at BAM. So hi Ashley, hi Kelly, Linda, Suzanne. Oh wow, we have a nice little group here. I love it. So kind of went off on a tangent. It was I Am Infinity, and Jonathan and I were hosting. He's traveling, so I am on my own. And I was just talking about how it's been a while. And so I'm really seeing, as Christopher's been saying on our minister calls, that this is getting the fires going. For me, it's reigniting a fire of getting on here and sharing, like creating this little space. So I decided to come to BAM with the Gong, and we got it to where you can hear it. And so we're going to talk about the Gong especially, and I have 2, and then I have some other instruments here. I've learned how to play percussion really just by experience, by playing around and experimenting with different things. And I was blessed to be in a group with Fred, the artist, and the drum teacher, and a couple other ladies, that Vashti and Deborah, and we played together. And then I just started doing sound baths and experimenting. I've played with jazz bands, and I've played for children. I've played for corporations for their wellness day. I've played for a room full of mental health counselors that the lead counselor wanted to treat her clinicians, and so I went in and did a little sound bath with meditation, and it's just been so rewarding and a nice addition to the craniosacral work that I do, that's hands-on in a therapy room or at Spirit Fest, doing the hands-on healing work and adding sound and energy. I do that with Jonathan, and it's beautiful. If you haven't got a session from the pair of us, I really highly recommend it. We are also looking at doing sessions virtually, which I already do, and he and I have played around with it. But if there's no space and time, quantumly, we can do work with people, or even do sound baths through the computer, through a platform like this. Those sound waves go to you. They hit your body. They make changes. They form sacred geometry, whether you're in the room or not, is what I'm finding. So why not? I mean, why can't there be healing across the internet? It's a web. It's all webs, and sound does not have barriers. So let's see. I'm going to talk about this beauty behind me. I think before I'm going to talk about the beauty behind me, this gong, this beautiful gong, because, oh gosh, when did I get this gong? Probably 2021, maybe 2022. I'll have to go back, and it doesn't matter. It's been a few years, 4 years. And when I first got it, okay, so I was walking with Yolanda Timms, and I happened to say, you know what, I'm thinking about getting a gong. It came to me in a meditation. I had already started taking some drumming class, going to the drum circles on the beach, experimenting with the rattle, different kinds of drums here and there. A few of Fred's classes, a couple of the African drum classes across the way, always going to drum circles. I dated a couple of musicians. So it's just like you just start picking things up. Even in my 20s, I hung out with DJs and people that played music from different varieties. So I've always been around it. And, I took lessons for the recorder and guitar a little bit here and there, but not really committing. Percussion seemed to be more my thing because I could play. I could just play around with the sounds, and I was good at that. I was good at, when I was in the choir, vocal, I was good at following the ear. I would sing alto for my first year, and I could barely read music, but I could just match the tone. And then I became second soprano in some other choirs, and learning a little more about music and sound and how to harmonize and how to kind of weave. So I found percussion was similar to that. It was, especially if I was playing with trained musicians that could hold beats and do a melody, then I could slip in. And vocals, I could hold the melody while they did the upper and lower. So with Gong, I was walking with Yolanda, and I just happened to mention, Gong came to me in meditation. I think I'm going to get one, and I've been just kind of wondering where to go. And she, that day, sends me links to this gong, the Unlimited Deep Breath Gong. This is a 32-inch. And I think maybe one other gong. And she said, it's got to be at least 32 inches. And I said, okay. And then, me being me, I went on the website. I went on the link to this one and the other one, and then went on a couple days of just listening to all kinds of gongs, every kind of gong that you could possibly imagine, from China, Italy, Germany, different parts of America, made from different metals, some with sacred geometry, some not, what sizes, really just going for it. And shared with one of my friends, Charles, who was one of the drummers and musicians that I would just play with sometimes. He was going on there too, and we played this one. They have little on gongsunlimited.com, but there's other places to get gongs. I really recommend trying to go to a shop in person to pick your gong. Just going by a YouTube video, you can sometimes get a feel for it, but to actually play it, touch it, connect. But I did not with this one. I played this one, and you'll hear this one. It's a deep, deep breath gong. So after looking and looking and looking and looking, I come back to this one, the one Yolanda sent to me, and I ended up getting this one because just the sound, it just kept speaking to me. And since then, I've gotten one of Fred's little gongs over there. That is a small wind gong. I believe that's a 22-inch. That one has a totally different sound. There's a couple other gongs that I have my eye on, and we'll get back. We'll get another one eventually, maybe even a little bit bigger than this one. And I'll tell you in a little bit why 32 inches, why Yolanda said that and Christopher said that when I was looking. And when I first got it, they send a mallet like this. It's like for Chinese, it's called a Chinese mallet. And I played around, but then I ordered some other ones, like the fuzzy ones. Just other little mallets, like this is a drum mallet. This one's kind of like a tom-tom mallet. I think that's the only ones I have. And then there's like harder ones like this. This was one of Fred's mallets that have been all over the world. So when I play it, I think of him and I feel like we're traveling. You know, I would probably title this podcast, this episode, Gong Consciousness, because that's one of the books we're going to look at that Christopher had recommended to me. But I Am Infinity, which is the original name that Jonathan and I are doing, is perfect. And that's why I thought about the gong, because playing the gong and letting these harmonics, there are so many notes being played right now. I've tried getting the note of this gong, and until it starts to resonate, like kind of start to close down, it goes to D. But before that, it's all over the scale, because there's so many different waves coming from this beautiful, beautiful instrument. 40 feet is how far these sound waves travel for a gong this size. This one does not have sacred geometry like Christopher's does. The ones with actual etchings in the metal will, when you play it, will send whatever that image is out into the field. I think that's fascinating. The other thing, that's what I learned from Christopher. One of my music, I would call him my creative mentors, his name's Frank. He has his PhD in frequency. And he and I have sat down and played different things and tried recording and mixing. And we would play with, the one day we were just playing with different things, different ways to play the gong. And he said that in his studies, the sacred geometry is formed out here. So any gong, depending where it's hit, and if I'm going to play the wind gong, now we have sound waves coming from there, coming from here, and they're meeting out here. And out in the field, whether they're etched or not, he's saying it's cymatics. It starts to form the nulls and nodes of the waves start coming together. So sacred geometry is formed out in the field. So no matter, the etchings are just more specific. This will go out and form waves, form sacred geometry. So I think also with looking at quantum reality, we're also going to look at my intention. What am I putting into the gong as the gong's actually coming out? So it's an exchange. And I always see any kind of round instrument as a portal, and this gong definitely is. It opens the space. When we use friction mallets, I can't even count how many times during sound baths or after a sound bath someone asks if there were voices coming from the gong. And that was before I would tone. Now I'm toning more, and I tone into the gong a lot, and then that also adds to the sacred geometry of the sound waves. So intention, opening space, so the I am infinity, I feel, the gong opens that up. It forms a pathway. And then the different sounds that I can make with this will transport people to different spaces. A lot of times they're going within and they're traveling. It's creating a cellular change. It's clearing, kind of washing. Sometimes if something's played, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. Hi, Jonathan. I said you were probably going to pop on. So this is a jazz drum brush, and this one, so these are all metal. I don't know if you can see it. And then they have, this particular one has little metal balls on it. Fred gave these to me. I have some without the metal balls, but sometimes during a sound bath, I will do that kind of brushing. So I don't know if you can hear it. It's pretty subtle. The other is how the mallet. There's a lot of variables with playing the gong, and it's almost impossible to play it the same twice because yes, you have the metal, you have a fixed item, but what am I putting into it? One, who's in the room, because that also has a factor in the whole thing. Which mallet am I using? How hard am I playing? Am I using it to strike, or am I using the mallet to dampen it? So it can even make different sounds. Where I hit it on the gong makes all the difference. Right in the center, that's kind of like, and Linda, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, but I believe this is like the bass note. And I always think of this as the heart, or sometimes I see that as the root, depending, but it kind of just brings everything in when I hit it in the middle. It feels like it just brings it all into the center. I don't know if you all can feel it. Maybe you can type in the chat when I hit this deep breath gong. Oh, we're getting... I don't know if the mic's picking that up, but that is beautiful. That is like a phasing. It's phasing right now in a very deep way. Good, you feel it. So Kelly, where do you feel it in your body? So, yeah, it's chest area. Okay. So maybe we could play around with this. I think this is fun. So the other place, as I was playing around, when I first got this gong, I just started messing around with it. I didn't watch videos how to play it. I had it up in my house, front and center, right in the living room, so I would play it. My cat at the time, Ginger, loved it. That cat would sit right under it, and he would sometimes come to get me to play it. He just freaking loved it. I don't know how our little farm over there would like it now, but it was like I'd play every day and just play with different things. I would use the friction mallet. Hear that? That goes in space. Some people go underwater. To me, that is I am infinity. It's carrying consciousness up the tentacle, or maybe even down the tentacle of the jellyfish. But the friction mallets, to me, is what brings that spiral. So I would play around with that. I would do the friction mallet. Yeah, chill. Some people think it's eerie. The big one, not so much, but when I get into the whale flumies, I'll play a little bit of that. It does. Sometimes it depends how I'm playing. It just sounds like a little bit of a horror film to some people. So I remember I used to do this, play it like this. It's like the friction, and then I would like chase it with the mallet and try to move the sound. And so singing into it and it singing back. Sometimes when I would do the strike with the soft mallet and then add some friction, that sounds whale-like. Playing with sound. Sound waves, to me, sometimes they feel like they're bouncing back and forth. Playing with two soft mallets on either side. I would have people stand behind the gong, or sometimes they like to stand in front of it, but behind it is how they explain it in this book that I'm going to show you. That the other side of this, it's more of a concave. This is more of a convex, so the sound's going to kind of go out at an angle. In the back, the sound goes in. So in this book, Gong Consciousness, that Christopher Timms recommended to me, and then I ended up getting it by Jane Wells, PhD, she talks a lot about healing with the gong, and she recommends having the client or the person that you're gonging on the other side, and then it can pinpoint, and I've done this, and it's amazing because if it's like the gong almost becomes a map of the body is how I look at it. So if it's if their left shoulder, I might tap more, play like this from the heart to the shoulder, and then that's going to get directed to that part of the body. I've watched people play as the chakras up the middle, that one being the heart, starting down here and going up. In Gong Consciousness, she says the zones to hit, for those of you that have a gong or now want to go get one because they're so freaking cool, the four corners are good places to play. And she recommends giving some space, and so does my mentor Frank. It's okay if you let it go all the way till there's nothing. In me, I want to keep playing. I don't particularly like silence during a sound bath, yet there's studies and a lot of artists find the value in the space in between, the silence. And Christopher talks about that. The Taoists talk about that a lot. It's in that silence, or in between the strikes, when things are playing, and then I can hit it again, and that adds a little more to the mix. And sometimes that can be cool. Sometimes, adding like different things just gives a different kind of sound. But then also letting it play out, letting it sit. Let's see. Any comments or questions about the gong? So in Gong consciousness, she talks about healing herself and her daughter by playing Gong for 45 minutes a day and sitting in front of it. And she talks about healing on all levels and what conditions she has found as a Gong practitioner it's helped. And then she gives some suggestions about how to set up rooms for Gong baths and things like that. And sometimes it's easy to set it up the way she says, and then there's other times. But it's like in the middle of the room with people on either side of the Gong is what she recommends. But it's not always easy to do that. Sometimes you have to put it up against a wall so you can get enough people. But directly on the side of the Gong, like parallel, or I guess in the straight line, like on the other side of the Gong there, you're not really going to feel the sound waves. You'll hear them, and you'll get some ricochet, I'm sure, from the rooms and some of the sacred geometry, but to actually be in the direct path in front of and behind it is optimal. And 32-inch is the absolute smallest that she recommends for groups. Now, I personally love watching videos now of like the really, really big gongs, like those 45-foot, or 45 inches, not 45 feet. Can you imagine that size? Oh my goodness. So yeah, big enough groups, more than one gong. Jonathan and I have done multiple rooms, and I can have one gong in one room, the other one in the other room, and be able to do that. And that's interesting. I've walked around with gongs, the smaller one, and played, so it's more spatial. People laying. I don't know, I always have, some people like to lay with their head towards the gong, but I find that a lot of times that's a little bit too much going on up in the brain. Sometimes people start out that way and then they'll turn, but in general, feet is probably the best. I mean, if you're specifically trying to heal a brain trauma or a brain injury, I would say do it. I would say have the head on the side of the gong, and maybe only for part of the bath. Let's see. Is there anything else I'm going to share about? I just recently, doing sound baths and traveling with the gong, and this is such an easy stand to take up and put down. But sometimes I just don't put it back up because I know I'm going to have to pack it and, take it down again. And I just miss it. I don't as often as I used to sit down and just play it. But recently, this week, I said, I am putting it up. And if a group meets in this room, I'm going to cover it and just say, please, I'd rather you not play the gong. If they do, they're getting some healing. But people are usually respectful. But I want to keep it up because playing it, even just for a few minutes, I'm noticing it's helping. It's helping to calm and to clear some of the stress and anxiety that I feel, especially if I have a really long work day. It's nice to come in here and just take a walk around, get in the sun a little bit and some fresh air, and then gong myself for a little bit. So this, again, is a 32-inch deep breath gong. And it's made with several metals. I have it somewhere, what metals they've used on this one. And then they hammer it. This one is unlathed in the middle, meaning it still has the fire marks on it. That's what makes it black. And then they buffed out the rim. You'll see some gongs that are the opposite of this. It has an unlathed rim and it's shiny in the middle. Then now there's a lot of gongs, especially the Italian ones, that are like electroplated. So they heat it and then it causes like rainbow swirls in it, or they can make like different designs in it, and those are really cool. There's just so many different kinds. Chinese gongs are totally different. They usually just have one tone, and the edges, they're usually thicker metal, and the edges kind of go back, and you almost have like a flat edge, and then they have a nipple in the middle, and you hit the nipple, and it's one tone. But they sound really interesting. They're heavy, and so it's like a boom, and it just feels different in the body. I would love, I think my dream, I have a few, but it's reminding me, I want a room full of gongs is what I want. At least one wall. So, and to stand up and play them. And do some movement with it. I think that would just be awesome. It would be so healing to, and maybe have some other music in the background, you know, and then just go and play the different gongs together and create like a whole atmosphere and move in it, move chi. That'd be fun. I could do it with these two, but imagine if it was 4 or 5 or 6 and different ones from around the world all making different sounds. Ah, what a cool place that would be. So, let's see here. To infinity and beyond. This other book, because remember, for like, I'd say for 2 years, I didn't read or really watch videos. I would touch base with them, but I wouldn't, I really just wanted to learn. I wanted this gong to teach me how to play it. And I've always noticed when I haven't played, it's like an old friend. And when I had it in my house, it was a presence, and it's a presence here. It's like you walk in the room and you can feel the gong, and when the gong's not there, you can tell. And so I have a Buddha statue that always wanted to be beside it, and he hasn't been for a while, so I might have to bring him over here. There's an essence in that Buddha, probably from the etheric realm or the mental realm. It's all still the simulation, right? But hey, it's fun. So this book, I think I ordered this one. It's Sound Healing and Yoga, but it has mudras. And Jonathan and I have been talking about mudras and energy, moving chi. Chi, you know, Christopher teaches the chi accumulation exercises and working with the different fingers or the different elements. And I mean, through time, they've been doing mudras and body positions, not even just qigong and tai chi, but pretty much every culture has some kind of movement. The hand gestures, I just pulled this out. I haven't looked at it in a long time. They're very simple. Yeah, the elephant mudra. There's one-handed ones and two-handed ones, but he's suggesting doing the mudras while the gong is being played. So the energy, the gong is moving energy in the room, and then you are harnessing that energy from within and cultivating what's around you, the chi in the room, and you are the different hand positions or different movements directed. And that would be fun to play with, with the gong. I haven't really done that yet, mostly because I'm playing it, but I could play with one hand and do a mudra with the other one. Is that gong yoga? Wait, hold on, I'm sorry. Yes, that would be amazing. I don't know what you're talking about, Kelly. Maybe doing the room full of gongs. Yes. Does my gong have a name? No. Isn't that funny? I'm kind of weird about naming things, Suzanne, because I feel like names change because we change. Like, I don't feel like Trisha. It's been a long time since I even felt like that's my name, but I don't know what other name I'd go by. But even naming pets, instruments, once in a while, like my car told me its name was Dolphin Blue. And it was right after I swam with the dolphins for the first time that I bought it. And it has this blue color. And I'm like, it's Dolphin Blue. And I could hear the car like that name. But, I don't know, once in a while a name will come. But, no, my gong does not have a name. Deep breath gong. Sometimes this gong feels very feminine. It's very womb-like. And sometimes it feels very masculine. It depends on the lights in the room. It depends on the energy. Yeah, what's needed. I feel like it takes on, it's kind of a shapeshifter, and it takes on the frequency. It opens up to the frequency that's needed, either by the people in the room or if I'm playing for a situation in the world or for healing for somebody. It's going to take on different forms for that. Sometimes during a sound bath, it changes. There's segments, and it could start out as a very feminine gong, very like holding everyone, and then maybe in the middle it becomes more of a masculine gong, and it's more like a alchemy, like stirring things up. And it may shift, but a long answer to your question, a short answer is no, my gong does not have a name. Okay, is the book called Gong Yoga? It is called, that first one was Gong Consciousness by Jane Wells, Self-Healing Through the Power of Sound. And then that's the one Christopher had lent me, and then I gave his back and ended up buying it. And you can see the picture of that gong is hers, is what I was saying. It's the opposite. It has the unlathed and then like the polish. And this one has the flower of life etched in it. So that's also, as Christopher teaches, that etching into the metal then puts that flower of life out into the field when it's played. He says if it's just stuck on there, like not etched in, that it doesn't do that. But then, what I learned from Frank is that there's always sacred geometry being formed, but it's just not that specific one. It could be other ones. Okay, so the other book is called Gong Therapy. I don't know if you can see it. Gong Therapy. And it says Sound Healing and Yoga in the little bar, so that's like the subheading. And Mehtab Benton is the author. And again, I haven't done a lot with this book. I'm starting to look at the mudras now. And he goes through the chakras. I know it's a he because there he is on the back playing his gong. See, he's holding it, carrying it around. So it's going to be more, he can walk around and kind of hold it in front of people. Yeah. So that's, he has a lot about chakras and affirmations, and meditations and things like that. But I don't know. Interesting. He talked about percussion points like a clock. Yeah, see, I haven't done any of this. So there's a lot of different methods of playing the gong and the chakras. I've seen it played like that. So, yeah. Fun, thanks. The gong has many names and none. That's right. Well, Suzanne, if anything decides to become under my care, it knows it's got to be fun. And if it's a plant, I'm like, you have to be okay with not a lot of water. You know, you got to be tough. And so I let them know that, because I'm not that great at watering. But fun. Why not have fun? And the fact that it shapeshifts, that's great. Let's see. We could go through some other sounds. Since the sound's coming through on the device, what we could do, unless someone else has a question or a comment, is notice where in the body you're feeling or sensing the sound, or where the sound is kind of sitting in you. And just what it's invoking, what's emerging from this sound, being wherever it is and whichever one it is. So where in the physical you feel it, or maybe you even feel it in the emotional body, and maybe feel it in the mental, maybe feel it in your astral. And then what's emerging for you? Is it a memory? Is it a thought like, I don't like that sound? Or is it something like, that really feels good, or that reminds me of when I was a kid, and that kind of stuff. Or maybe it makes you kind of irritated and angry. There's no wrong answers. All right, so I'm going to do this one. And I know because Linda and I did a little sound check. So let's see, how does this feel in your body? Where in your body, and what emerges? I don't know if you could hear it. I'm going to show you what it is. It's a wooden xylophone with gourds. I love this. I'm going to play a little more. Maybe I could move it. So happy. Like, I smile every time I play it. It kind of hits me, playing it, it hits me in the chest. It hits me like in this upper chest, and maybe even going up into the throat. I always smile. I always just feel happy. So, does anyone want to comment? What emerged? Happiness emerges. Happiness, childhood. It's like a kid. All right. Let's see. And I would think like wood. I've tried different mallets too. This one seems to hit the best, but the wood with the gourd gives it that vibration, but the wood and how you hit the wood, the sound waves, it's almost like it's popping. And I know there's a wave, but it's quick. It's not like the gong where you hit it and it goes for 40 feet. All kinds of waves, not even just one. This one, it's one note and it's a very short wave. So it makes sense that it feels more like bloop, 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 little pops, where this, it's more, for me, it's cellular. It's like it's going through my body, and at first it might shake up things, but after a couple times it starts to smooth things out. And then I can start to sense that actually some of the sound waves are bouncing, and I can start to feel that. Playing with different sounds. Sometimes I'll hold things up in front of the gong, and it's so interesting because depending on what it is, like the crystal pyramids, it like merges with it and sends out a whole different signal, a whole different frequency. It like amplifies. They amplify each other. Trying to think. I've held like metal bowls in front of it, and sometimes the gong cancels things out. Then it becomes like more of a null. So there's sometimes with certain other sounds, the gong just muffles it. Other ones, they come together. So here's another wooden percussion. It says Belize on it with a little thing. So this one also, for me, very happy. It's a piece of thick bamboo, it looks like, with wood cut out in like little tongues. Another one. I feel happy. Hopefully this isn't boring. Let's see. I have some other ones. This is one of Jonathan's favorites. Chimes. So, I like just doing this. I got these not that long ago. I liked the blue, probably around the Blue Star Ministers program. Might have been before that. Sometimes I'll do this before a session and after a session, or if the energy is starting to go up the tentacle. Go up the scale, down the tentacle of the jellyfish. If consciousness is rising, consciousness is, I don't want to say dropping, embodying. These are like rain, little fairies. To me, it's happy. I use them for direction, though. You love percussion, you love playing it. I know. Isn't it fun, Suzanne? just fun. I keep telling Jonathan, I used to have BAM jams here. He's like, let's have one. And I'm like, I know, just have people come and we play. It's fun. It's fun just playing around and not thinking about, oh, this sounds bad or this sounds great. When you're in it, when you're in the flow, and then that entrainment happens. But I don't even think it's entrainment. Entrainment is different. This is like, kind of like chaotic, that then starts to become something. And each time it becomes something, it's different, and you can't repeat it. So someone might bring, a blues guitar or a rattle or different drums, or and then just someone starts playing, and then it's like, what do I feel like bringing in? I might bring in the rattle, or I have this rattle. Totally different feels in the body. This one, has little like black seeds in it, and these like small little, they're almost like golf balls, honestly. To me, that's shaking things up, but it's kind of smooth. It's not like real invasive, but it's getting the job done. Almost like a little sander. This, it's a little more harder. It's a little more pokey to me. That's the technical term, pokey. But it also has a feeling of rain and cleansing. And these are worn in sun dance, peace dance. These are, anklets or wrists. And these are a certain kind of seed, but it also has a ceremonial feel to them, so kind of a sacredness. But yeah. So, just jamming together, just creating with sound. I love doing that, and I need to do it more. Playing along with music can be dynamic and great fun. I used to do so during church concerts. I think that's still Suzanne. Yes. Yeah. Playing along. If anyone has any kind of training, though, sometimes it's hard for people that have the very specific training. So like Linda, you do. I'm sure, I don't know who else does, but it's like, for a lot of those people, it's hard to just be organic and like kind of throw the rules out the window and just see with randomness if there becomes some kind of order, and it always does. It always gets to a point where it sounds okay, and sometimes it sounds like freaking awesome. And it could be awesome for like 30 seconds, a couple minutes, or 10 minutes, and then it kind of just has a life. So I'm wondering, Linda, could you, if you're playing along with music, yes, like during church concerts, but have you ever done just like getting together with people and just playing and seeing what emerges from the group? All right, here is bells. Let's see if you can hear them and how they feel. We'll do this, and I'm going to grab a drum and then do that, and then we'll see where it takes us. Sounded like a commercial. Where is this affecting your body? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I think Christmas. Bells just bring me to Christmas, or sometimes church, but for some reason Christmas. And it's happy. How I'm playing them's happy too. I don't know if there's a way to play the bells in a sad way. I don't know. Just done with drumming circles on Gabriola Island by the beach at night. Good. Yes, drum circles. Drum circles are definitely that. I see fairies dancing. Yeah, the bells are very fairy-like. I am going to, there's a drum over here. It's a gathering drum. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'll play it low. And see how this feels in your body. And I'll be back. Let me just go grab it. Okay, so this, I call it a gathering drum, but it's really a children's percussion drum. So you see like all the little jungle characters, and even on the inside. So it's a children's percussion. One of my friends teaches kids, and she would bring these to for us to play, and I was like, I've got to get one of these. So this is a Remo, and it's a synthetic head. Animal skin heads on drums have a different sound and feel because it has the essence of the animal. The skin will change frequently depending on moisture, so sometimes you might have a little bit of dampness, so it's not going to be your drum, I don't know the proper words, a musician, sorry, I think it's the timbre changes. So synthetic head, even though it feels different, it's a little more reliable as far as keeping tight. And so I have different sizes of the Remos. One I took into a cave in Mentone, Alabama, where it's very moist and damp, and we got to play in the chamber of this cave, Manitou Cave. It was one of the coolest experiences I ever had, and wanted it to just go on and on, but it was a little bit short. We chanted, and I have a couple recordings of that I gotta find, but that drum held up. So in a lot of cultures, the drum gathers. I mean, the gong will also gather in some of the Asian cultures. Excuse me, gather or announce. You always see in movies and stuff how they play it, or people that are, old enough remember the Gong show, and they would say that at first when I would bring the gong out. But rarely, when it's played as an instrument, like, it's not hit that hard. It can be, and sometimes the washes, I've played it where the washes are stronger, but once I started recording and I started clipping, I realized, wow, all right, if hitting it that hard is taking these sound waves like off of the scale of audio, I don't know, it might be shaking stuff up in the body. Okay, but is that sustainable? Like, how good is that for the body? I don't know. But occasionally I will do a loud wash. And whoosh, sometimes the room needs it. Sometimes I need it. Okay, so there's different mallets. I think I'm going to go with the softer one. So the drum, the heartbeat. I love this. So just feel this. We're going to see really how this platform sounds. We're testing the boundaries. So I don't know if you all could hear that or feel that. It may have felt good, and if you did feel it, it may not have felt good translated over the quantum. Suzanne, your computer crashed. Weird, then poof. That is very fascinating. Hopefully the gong did not disrupt anything, because that gong can wash stuff. Or maybe it was the bells. Alright, so no one's really commenting on the drum. I'm going to be honest, I'll probably play this drum after the call. To me, this just feels warm. It pulls on my heart, and like I really do feel when I play this and really like sink into it, I am in a circle around a fire somewhere. You know, how many times has humans circled around a fire in history and in different lands, and that fire element is what connects across time. You know, all the elements do. I've been reading about water a lot lately. The Water Code, there's a couple books with that name that came out around the same time, but you know, you have a motto that Deborah shared about, and there's another woman called Veda Austin that's also working with water as a consciousness, with freezing, with asking questions, and then freezing the water and seeing that the water has answered her question through a symbol, or sometimes she can see a word. It's pretty amazing. So, elements. We're talking about I Am Infinity. That was the name of this. The elements. I think, too, that's why animal skin drums, I mean, if they were ethically obtained and honored, when you are playing that's also adding this like an earth element that has a resonance. So each element can connect us across time. Here we go. Suzanne, something to do with storms and atmosphere, probably, yeah. And it reminds you of drumming at powwows, just a little faster. Yeah, it does replicate the big drums. And sometimes the ones like the prayer drum or the gathering drum with there's long sticks. I don't know what else to call them. And there's like there's like 4 people, and they're all like hitting on the big drums. Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. Yeah. It's the middle of the drum. So yeah, it's the bass. You know, the gong's similar. It's a big cymbal. It can be played like a percussion. Like you can even like hold it and, you know, like actually use it like a drum. I've only seen that a couple times, and I've played around with it, but Yeah, see, the gong drowns out the drum. So it almost like the gong drops the drum beat down and out. Very interesting. Yep, these two instruments cannot be played together. Or maybe you could, but very interesting. So, I am infinity through sound, through instruments. That there's different sound waves that, depending on the instrument, might cause different changes out here, different geometries. And yeah, there might be one that you really like and one that you're like, don't really like it. I know for me, the crystal bowls, as much as they sound beautiful, there's a pitch that's played or how the person's playing it that just drills into my head. And it's just not my favorite. And when it's happening, I'm like, all right, I must need this. But sometimes I'm like, nah, I don't want to sit here and do that. So if I need it, I need it. But sometimes I don't want my head drilled into in that time and space. And most of the time with crystal bowls, it's lovely. But occasionally, there's that. Okay. I think that's all I have. And I'm just looking around. I have other instruments, but I think that's assisting using sound and different percussion to move our energy, move our consciousness through practice. Up the tentacle, down the tentacle. Maybe the different instruments are helping to clear or assist an area of that journey. And the practice is to not only go up and through the membrane and out into the belly, into the consciousness, but it's also to bring that back in, or be in the toggle. I've been really, I don't know how I'm doing with that. Always practicing, let's put it that way. How well am I doing? Some days okay, and some days it's a little more of a challenge to toggle. It's a challenge to have a big toe in pure consciousness and be able to navigate the waves. And if the emotions arise, and they seem to have been arising a lot the last couple weeks, it's how quickly can I toggle and be above it, as Jonathan says. Be above it and look down. And Christopher shared that, but he reminds me of this a lot. It's like, be above it and look at it from there, from that more evolved, consciousness place. And it does help. Yet sometimes when the astral's really strong and the emotions are really hitting, it's I get thrown around a little bit. And then I remember. I do a practice. Play a sound, play the gong, move my body, movement in some way. If I can just walk a little bit or dance, and sometimes it's rest. So, alrighty then. It reminds me, the gong is resonating, pulsing. You know what, Susan, you probably were hearing it. Because sometimes when I play, the gong will pick up frequencies and start pulsing. So that's why singing into it, it'll bounce. If I was on the phone having a conversation, the gong would start like pulsing, and it's almost like it's in on the conversation. So, but there is a little bit of a bounce. Yeah, and it's even rocking. That might be from when I played it. Thank you, Kelly. Oh, you hear a low pulse in the background? You know what? That also may be the AC unit here at work. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jonathan, we missed you, but glad you could be here. And today's Wednesday, right? We'll have another Blue Star Connection on Monday. What's the date? I want to promo, and I don't know who it is, I'm sorry, but May 18th is a Monday, and then May 20th is a Wednesday. There will be 2 new podcasts by the Blue Star Ministers, and then, of course, on Tuesday is Christopher's call. And then he does insider calls, too, on other days, but there's usually an email. So thank you, everyone, so much. We're at Spirit Fest Melbourne, Jonathan and I and Christopher, and I think a few other people are going to be joining this coming weekend. So wish us luck and send us love, and we'll see you later.